I remember one of my first attempts at solving a mystery. It was a colossal disaster. I think I had to have been about 5, and we were having an Easter egg hunt. And I was not doing very well getting them at all. Now, I thought I was being very diligent, searching in every possible crevice that I could find. Behind rocks, under bushes, behind furniture, all the places you would hide something. Then one of the grown-ups realized that this kid is just simply not going to get any eggs if we don't do something, came in and proceeded to help me. And that was when I discovered the meaning of the phrase, hidden in plain sight. They weren't hiding them behind the rocks. They were setting them on the rocks. They weren't hiding them behind the furniture. They set it on the back of the chair. They weren't hiding it in any of the places I had been looking. They were hiding it in the most obvious. Why? Because they knew that's what I would do. Talking about, oh, we're hiding some eggs. Of course, you're going to hide it so it is concealed. I was looking in every place it was concealed. But they did the most obvious thing. They put it in plain sight because they knew I was going to overthink it and not look there. There were 2 classic examples of this in literature. The first is back to the father of the modern mystery, Edgar Allan Poe, and his short story, The Case of the Purloined Letter, or the Purloined Letter, I can't remember. Anyhow, this detective, Dupin, had to help out the local inspector of the Parisian police, who had been hired by a very high-ranking member of the monarchy to find a letter that somebody was attempting to blackmail her with. The poor inspector, he said, she has doubled the ransom, the reward for the finding the letter. He said she could triple it for all the difference it would make. I can't find it. And Dupin asked him, where have you looked? What have you done? And he went on to explain how they searched floorboards. They searched furniture. They searched, took off table legs to see if it was hollowed out. They went through all the books in the man's library. All these things. And Dupin sat and he thought, and he says, yeah. And any luck? No. He said, the inspector said, if anybody could help me, I would pay them, 50,000 francs out of the reward. And Dupin presented him with a checkbook, and he says, you write me the check, and I'll give you the letter. Thought it was a joke. Gave him the check. Dupin gets up, goes to his desk, produces the letter. Man's so happy he takes off. Well, Dupin's Watson equivalent asked him, how in the world did you do that? He says, it was simple. I knew this guy. I knew how he thought. And he doesn't think just like a mathematician, which he was, or a politician, which he was. He also thinks like a poet. So he's going to think outside the box. He's going to have an abstract idea. He's going to get into the mind of whoever he thinks is going to look for it. And knowing that the police investigate very thoroughly, he knew that they would be looking in hidden places. Me, knowing that that's how he thought, I decided to look in obvious places. And I would go and visit him and discuss various things, and sure enough, I noticed something a little out of the ordinary in his letterbox. A type of letter type of stationery that was a little unusual, a little ragged, and he was a very neat and tidy person. And so there was a distraction outside, and while he was distracted, I grabbed the letter, leaving something similar in its place. Sure enough, that was it. He had disguised the letter by folding it a different way than it had originally been folded and putting it in a different envelope with his seal on it, his monogram. But the envelope looked different than the other envelopes in his files. And I knew that that was where it was. The chief inspector did not think of that because that was too obvious. This is a very dangerous and valuable letter, so of course they're going to hide it. So he never noticed that it was hidden in plain sight. G.K. Chesterson, in his series about famous Father Brown, talked about a crime that was committed, and nobody saw anything. And Father Brown realized that they were overlooking something. He said, "You're going to be amazed that a suspect dressed in crimson and gold could so escape your notice." And they said, "Oh no, that's not possible. We would have seen something like that." And he pointed out, no, you wouldn't. And that's how the murderer was able to accomplish the crime. In those days, in Britain, postal delivery people dressed in crimson and gold. Now, you're used to seeing a postman, especially when they are on their appointed round at their appointed time, like they do every day, become obvious. When you are dealing with the obvious, you don't take any notice. Something horrible has just happened. You're thinking of anything out of the ordinary. You can't think of anything because there was nothing out of the ordinary. Somebody who took advantage of routine and ordinary committed something out of the ordinary. The suspect was hidden in plain sight and nobody noticed, despite the fact he was dressed in crimson and gold. But the good Father Brown, who always had a different way of looking at things, realized that's the only one who could have done it. So, in investigating, they found out that somebody had taken the place of the regular postman. Upon further investigation, they found out that was the killer. So when you're working out your mysteries and you're thinking of where to plant your clues, plant them in plain sight. It'll make it hard for your reader to find them. But when you're planting clues, remember that for every clue, there should be at least 2 red herrings. So they don't feel completely cheated. Those you can hide.